The Young and the Restless spoilers shock in the ever-shifting emotional landscape of Genoa City, where betrayal and redemption often share the same breath. A tangled web of longing, lies, and vengeance begins to unravel with terrifying precision. Amanda Sinclair, a woman who once carried the poise of a strategist and the charm of a loyal lover, is now staring into the smoldering wreckage of a relationship she believed was real. Her carefully constructed world with Cain Ashby was never what it seemed. It was an illusion built on the ashes of another love, one that Cain could never fully let go of, Lily Winters. And now, as the truth begins to emerge with cruel clarity, the storm Amanda had always kept buried inside is rising, and there will be no survivors if she unleashes it fully. Cain's reunion with Lily had not been orchestrated, but fate had a cruel sense of timing. They crossed paths under circumstances neither expected, and in those brief exchanges, raw and unguarded, something old stirred between them. Cain, ever the man whose heart wandered yet remained shackled to a past he pretended to have moved on from, found himself confessing things he should never have allowed to surface. His voice trembled not with guilt, but with the unmistakable ache of unfinished business. He told Lily things that Amanda would never have forgiven. Not just admissions of regret but vivid descriptions of how her absence had hollowed out his life. The look in his eyes wasn't confusion. It was longing. And that longing was never meant for Amanda. Amanda saw it. She felt it. Even in the silence between their words, she could hear the echoes of a past that had never died. At first, she confronted Cain with calm but steely resolve, warning him never to mistake her for someone who would tolerate betrayal. But Cain, emboldened by Lily's unexpected warmth and perhaps arrogantly assuming Amanda would always be his safety net, dismissed her. In a moment of startling cruelty, he looked her in the eye and said the words that would shatter her: she meant nothing. That she had been convenient. That she was the naive distraction he used while waiting for Lily's heart to thaw. That Amanda Sinclair, accomplished attorney, fierce and intelligent, had been reduced to a placeholder in the game of his emotions. He called her a fool. He told her he had never truly loved her. And worst of all, he said it without remorse. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was annihilation. Amanda's heart didn't break, it calcified. In that moment, something inside her shifted. The pain, the embarrassment, the humiliation, it was more than she could bear. And Cain, so wrapped in his own emotional high from Lily's forgiving eyes, failed to see the storm he had just awakened. Amanda was not a woman who cried over spilled wine. She was a woman who burned vineyards to the ground. She retreated, but not in surrender. What Cain had mistaken for defeat was actually recalibration. She began to watch. To listen. To collect. And above all, she began to plan. Lily, unaware of the emotional wreckage spiraling behind her, felt moved by Cain's words. Though cautious, her heart softened. After all, this was the father of her children, a man she once built dreams with. And despite the ruins they had left behind, part of her still wondered if those ruins could be rebuilt. She never wanted to be the cause of Amanda's pain, but she couldn't deny the comfort she felt in Cain's arms, or the familiarity of their laughter. What she didn't realize, however, was that Amanda was no longer playing the role of jilted lover. She was the unseen force in the wings, scripting her revenge with precision and brilliance. Amanda knew that Cain was vulnerable when it came to business, and even more so when it came to reputation. She began to dig, quietly, methodically. She discovered a series of financial decisions Cain had made recently, some of which were borderline unethical, and a few which skirted the edge of illegality. She collected the paperwork, the wire transfers, the hidden accounts. She even intercepted emails between Cain and certain third parties. Proof that Cain was not just playing fast and loose with her heart, but with federal regulations. But Amanda wasn't going to expose him yet. Not before he hurt more. She wanted Cain to taste victory, false victory, so that his fall would be all the more crushing. So she played along. She smiled at Lily. She congratulated them both. She pretended to fade away. And Cain, ever the overconfident manipulator, believed she had accepted her place in the shadows. That was his second mistake. The first had been underestimating her. Amanda began leaking information to select allies. One document here to Michael Baldwin. Another whisper there to Devon. Then, strategically, she shared the truth with Billy Abbott, who had always been skeptical of Cain's business sense. And just as Cain was preparing a grand gesture, a second proposal to Lily, complete with a lavish gala funded by his newly acquired capital, Amanda made her move. The night of the event arrived. The guests were in place. Cain stood beneath the chandelier with a velvet box in hand, the world watching. And then the lights dimmed, not for romance, but for exposure. A projector lit up, and on the screen appeared bank records, forged contracts, and finally a video clip of Cain himself, bragging about manipulating both Amanda and Lily to get what he wanted. The room gasped. Lily turned pale. And Amanda, standing at the back of the crowd, didn't flinch. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply walked away. It was over. The man who called her a fool was now standing in a room full of silence, abandoned and disgraced. Lily left without a word. Cain tried to run after her, to explain, but she pushed him aside. Amanda had not only exposed his betrayal, she had taken away his future. The company deals collapsed overnight. Partners pulled out. His accounts were frozen. And suddenly, the man who played with two women's hearts for selfish gain had nothing but echoes to answer to. Amanda didn't need applause. She didn't need sympathy. What she wanted, justice, had been served. But even in victory, she felt no triumph. Only resolve. She was done letting men define her, done letting anyone mistake her for weak. And as she stood alone beneath the Genoa city skyline, she realized that her revenge had only opened the door to something greater, rebirth. The past could never be rewritten, but the future, her future, would never again be dictated by someone else's desires. And as for Cain? He now knew the full price of deception. In Genoa City, where every glance can be a threat and every whisper a warning, only one truth remains: underestimate Amanda Sinclair, and you don't just lose her, you lose everything. Let me know if you want a continuation or if you'd like to focus on Amanda's next arc after this revenge. I can also rewrite it from another character's perspective if you'd like. After her public takedown of Cain, Amanda could have walked away and never looked back. But justice in Genoa City was rarely that simple, and Amanda Sinclair had learned that vengeance only scratched the surface when the damage was emotional, psychological, and personal. There was still a hunger inside her, one that could not be quieted by shame alone. Because Cain hadn't just lied. He hadn't just used her. He had played her, manipulated her, and walked away believing he had the upper hand. And that was something Amanda couldn't let stand. The more she tried to move on, the more she realized she couldn't. The scars were too fresh, the memories too vivid. But now, Amanda was ready to strike deeper. Not just to humiliate. She wanted to destroy. And for that, she needed help, powerful help. That's when she turned to Victor Newman. For years, Amanda had kept a respectful distance from Victor, wary of his influence and the treacherous game of alliances that always followed him. But now, she no longer feared reputations. She only feared silence. Amanda scheduled a private meeting with Victor at the Newman Tower. She came not with desperation, but with leverage. She sat across from him, her gaze steady, her voice measured, and laid out the truth. She had information about Cain Ashby, information that, if used properly, could end his life as he knew it. She spoke of financial fraud, shell corporations, offshore accounts linked to questionable transactions, and more damning still, evidence that tied Cain to an incident that occurred years ago overseas involving a man who mysteriously disappeared during a land acquisition deal. Victor listened, expression unreadable. He didn't flinch, didn't blink. But Amanda knew that behind his stillness was calculation. And that's what she wanted, his precision. His reach. His ability to dismantle someone from the inside out. Amanda told Victor she didn't want money. She wanted closure. She wanted Cain behind bars, disgraced, forgotten. And if that aligned with Victor's interests, then they could work together. Victor saw the advantage immediately. Cain had once tried to dance too close to the Newman empire, and while Victor hadn't previously seen him as a real threat, the chance to remove a reckless wild card from the equation was too good to pass up. He nodded slowly and told Amanda that he would assist, but only if she delivered everything she had, and trusted that he would finish the job in a way only he could. Amanda agreed. It was the first step in turning heartbreak into power. Meanwhile, Cain was unraveling. Though he had tried to save face after the gala debacle, the walls were closing in. Business partners had abandoned him, Lily refused to speak to him, and Amanda's silence was more dangerous than any insult. But Cain was not a man to retreat quietly. He had always believed that if you couldn't win, you had to disappear, and take something valuable with you. That was when he came up with the plan. He reached out to Lily again, not with apologies this time, but with a plea. He told her that Genoa City was a prison, that they were being manipulated, watched, and judged. He painted himself as a broken man trying to be better, and her as the only one who ever made him whole. Cain told Lily that if she came with him, they could escape all of it. He had secured 2 tickets on the private luxury train bound for the coast, a train filled with elite power brokers, masked conversations, and more secrets than anyone was prepared for. But this wasn't just a romantic getaway. Cain had darker intentions. He knew too much. And if Victor or Amanda moved forward with their plan, he'd be arrested within weeks. His only option was to vanish. But he wasn't going to leave empty-handed. He wanted Lily. He wanted to recreate the illusion of the perfect family. And if he couldn't have her willingly, he was prepared to manipulate, guilt, or pressure her into coming. Lily, still wounded but susceptible to Cain's charm, agreed to join him for the journey, just one night, she told herself, to get closure. She didn't know that Cain had no intention of letting her go. Back in Genoa City, Amanda discovered that Cain had disappeared from public view. Her instincts screamed. She accessed travel records through one of Victor's contacts and found his name attached to a manifest. Aboard a train. Headed south. With Lily. The alarm bells were deafening. Something was wrong. Amanda didn't wait for permission. She boarded the next private flight and arranged for the train to be intercepted by authorities. But Victor warned her. This wasn't just about catching a fugitive anymore. There were whispers that Cain was desperate, erratic, and possibly armed. And Amanda realized the man she once trusted was spiraling towards something catastrophic. On board the train, Cain's facade began to crack. He drank too much. Spoke in riddles. He told Lily that this was their last chance to be free, that everyone else wanted to ruin them. He grew angry when she didn't reciprocate his excitement. He told her that if she didn't choose him, then none of them would leave the train alive. Lily froze. The man she once loved was gone. In his place stood someone unhinged, unpredictable. When she tried to excuse herself, he grabbed her wrist, not violently, but enough to send a message. He wasn't letting go. Amanda, now working with Victor's operatives and local law enforcement, instructed them to stall the train at the next station under the guise of a security check. She boarded quietly, blending into the crowd. Her eyes scanned the corridors, searching. When she finally saw Cain, disheveled, ranting to a bewildered Lily, she didn't flinch. She approached calmly, her voice steady, and told him it was over. At first, Cain laughed. He mocked her. Called her pathetic. But then Amanda pulled out her phone and played the audio file, the one she had saved for this very moment. It was Cain, weeks earlier, bragging to someone over the phone about what he planned to do to Amanda and Lily. He had called it a game. He said he would win. His smirk faded. He tried to snatch the phone from her hand, but security was already surrounding them. In front of everyone, Lily, the other passengers, even the conductor, Cain, was placed in restraints. Amanda handed over the documents to the authorities, complete with signatures, timestamps, financial trails. There was no escape. As he was escorted off the train, Cain looked at Amanda not with hate, but with fear. For the first time, he realized he had underestimated her. Amanda stood beside Lily as the train resumed its journey, the chaos left behind on the platform. Lily whispered a quiet thank you, not just for saving her, but for becoming the woman neither of them ever expected, the one with the power to end the nightmare. The next day, headlines in Genoa City exploded. Cain Ashby arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud and kidnapping attempt. Victor offered no comment, but Amanda knew he was satisfied. The game had ended, and she had won, not by stooping to Cain's level, but by outsmarting him at every turn. And as she stood once more beneath the Genoa skyline, this time with her future firmly in her own hands, Amanda Sinclair understood one final truth: pain can shatter you, but it can also sharpen you. And when the blade of revenge is forged in justice, no one can stop the cut. Would you like to continue this arc with Amanda taking a more powerful role in Newman Enterprises, or perhaps shifting her focus to another enemy? I can write the next chapter.